These people survived a plane crash in the mountains at minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. During World War II, one of the largest air disasters in the history of Tajikistan took place in the Pamir Mountains. The plane crashed into a cliff and fell into deep snow. The passengers and the pilot found themselves in a desperate situation at an altitude of 3,900 meters in an inaccessible location with freezing temperatures and no food supplies. You're on a tiny Soviet biplane, just a speck against these massive, totally unforgiving Pamir Mountains. These peaks are so high, so treacherous, that your little plane can't just fly over them. It's got to weave through these narrow, winding canyons, like trying to thread a needle with an airplane. And then it happens. Something goes terribly wrong. A wing clips a rock face, the plane instantly loses control, and it's plummeting down at a terrifying speed, slamming into a snowy mountainside. Now here's the wild part. Every single person on board, all 5 passengers and the pilot, they survived that crash. But what comes next for them? They're stuck over 4,480 meters up in the middle of a brutal winter, completely cut off from civilization. This isn't just a survival story. This is a gut-wrenching drama about sheer courage, the depths of desperation, the unbreakable bond of love, and the horrific price you pay when you're just fighting to stay alive. On February 16, 1942, a Soviet biplane took off from Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, heading for Khorog. The weather in the Pamir Mountains is unforgiving. Soon after takeoff, conditions deteriorated rapidly. The aircraft, despite its reliability, couldn't punch through the cloud front. At an altitude of 4,500 meters near the Adudi Pass, the biplane slammed into a rock face and went down. On board were pilot Vasily Kyaznichenko, Major Andrei Maslovsky, who was the Border Guard Detachment Chief, NKVD officers Mikhail Vikrov and Alexander Zhukovsky, and then there was Anna Gureeva with her 2 little boys, 10-year-old Sasha and 6-month-old Valerie. Anna's 3rd son, Vladimir, was back home with his dad at the time. The thing about the Pamirs is, it's home to one of the most dangerous air routes in the world. Pilots usually go way out of their way to avoid these mountain ranges. Flying in these mountains is just inherently risky because you get zero margin for error. There's nowhere to descend, peaks are everywhere, and in an emergency, trying a maneuver between mountains is just impossible. So these survivors, they were basically trapped. All around them were just snowy peaks and icy drops. The nearest town was dozens of miles away, through absolutely barren land. And at that extreme altitude, the thin air posed a serious risk of altitude sickness. Then, at night, temperatures would just plummet. We're talking down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. And on top of that, constant blizzards would just bury everything, leaving them totally disoriented and unable to move. A few hours after the crash, pilot Knyazachenko and Captain Vikrov, who'd only gotten minor bruises from the fall, tried to scout things out. Their goal was to reach the Pitch River, which their map told them should be nearby. But the landscape was completely hostile. Sheer cliffs, snowy peaks, glaciers everywhere. They never found the river and quickly had to turn back. After looking around, they realized the plane had crashed right on the edge of a glacier hanging over a bottomless chasm. Given all this, the group decided their only shot was to stay put and wait for a search party from Khorog. From that moment on, they started carefully rationing their food. According to Andrei Maslovsky's diary, which he started on the day of the crash, they had about 600 grams of butter, a kilogram of sausage, 1.2 kilograms of cheese, 1 can of crab, and 3 bottles of vodka. No drinking water. Hoping for a quick rescue was a pipe dream, so they decided to eat once a day, just a few grams of food. For water, they melted ice. The only warm spot was the cramped passenger cabin, built for 4. You couldn't stand up, couldn't even stretch your legs. They literally had to sit on each other's laps. Just looking at pictures of that plane, it's horrifying to imagine how all these people were squeezed in there. 3 days dragged by. For 2 of those days, a violent snowstorm raged, making it impossible to even leave the cabin. But on February 19th, the men tried again to find a way out. Here's what Maslovsky wrote in his diary. February 19th, after a modest breakfast, despite the bad weather, Knyazachenko and Vikrov walk about 6 kilometers to the gorge. The passage seemed impossible. They return extremely tired, snow up to their chests, altitude 3,900 meters. The others remained in the plain. February 20th, we went to look for a passage to Penge. While crossing the pass near the crash site, Zhukovsky fell with a snow and partially rock slide down about 1,000 meters, severely bruised his right knee, made it back to the plane on his own, where he was bandaged. Another week passed. The Pamir hostages spent it in the plane, slowly eating their last scraps of food. Valery, Anna's youngest son, couldn't take it anymore. In the night, between February 23rd and 24th, he died. On February 24th, their food ran out. The men made another desperate decision. They would go out again, this time determined to reach their goal. They left Anna and Sasha in the plane. Maslovsky's diary entry states, "At a short meeting, we decided that given our dwindling strength, lack of food, water, tobacco, and matches, and the bad flying weather, waiting for a plane for 10 or 11 days held no hope. When you feel like you only have 2 to 3 days left to live, we decided that the able-bodied on the 24th and 25th would make one last attempt to find a way out to Pidge, or die trying. We agreed to leave in the morning with renewed determination. Viktorov, Nyazhnichenko, and Zhukovsky." And just like that, the men disappeared into the white haze, leaving Anna alone with her son. She grabbed a notebook and began to write. "After seeing my husband off, Sasha and I began to insulate the cabin. Only 3 matches left. We melted some water and began to prepare for another agonizing night." After several days pushing through thick snow, 3 of them, Maslovsky, Viktorov, and Knyazhnichenko, finally made it to the village of Matraun. Local residents found them and got them to Gorog. Tragically, the 4th passenger, Alexander Zhukovsky, never arrived. Doctors later diagnosed the survivors with severe frostbite. 2 of them even had their legs amputated. Pilot Knyazhnichenko was luckier. He'd been wearing warm pilot's boots. But here's the really chilling part of the story. Once they were safe, they didn't say a single word to the locals about Anna and her son. They didn't even mention them. The villagers later insisted that if they had known Anna and her boy were waiting for rescue, they would have immediately launched a search operation. But only in Gorog did the surviving men mention Anna and Sasha, saying that there was probably no one left to save. And so, without any search operations, another 2 months would pass. So 2 more long, brutal months passed without any search operations. During this time, Anna started keeping a diary. It became a horrifying document filled with her pain, her desperation, and a mother's endless love. Her entries are a raw, heartbreaking cry from the soul, addressed to her husband, her loved ones, to the heavens themselves. Here's what she wrote. February 27th. We woke up at dawn and waited all day for an expedition. Our mouths were dry, we had nothing. February 28th. Still waiting all day, we have no matches left. We gather snow in a jar and put it in the cabin by the window. We didn't leave the cabin at all. We want to eat so badly. We thought about what to eat and decided to cut a piece from Valery. It was very hard to do, but it wouldn't go down. How could it be my own son and brother? But we were so hungry, and from that day on, we started cutting off pieces and eating. March 3rd through 4th, still waiting for the expedition. Water is boiling the same way. All hope for the expedition is gone. March 11th and 16th. We got out of the cabin in the morning and stayed out. It was a bit foggy, but the weather was good for flying. We took snow from the broken window, put it in different cups, and started melting water. We melted 2 half-liters, ate a piece of meat, drank. We are still waiting for an expedition. We keep looking out the window, sometimes Sasha, sometimes me, but there's still nothing. We started saving the meat to last as long as possible. We'll probably have to die because there's no hope of rescue. We've been here a whole month and nothing from any direction. March 17th through the 22nd. The weather is very bad, heavy snowfall with strong wind. We sat down, put out the last of the brains, put the last of the ointment on the burn, ate, but for some reason Sasha ate poorly and that was the end of our food. And then another cold night came. I didn't sleep all night holding Sasha, and it went on until morning. He would fall asleep, then suddenly rush to the windows. Sasha's bad again. He's delirious, noisy, crying. Sasha came to himself around 2 in the afternoon and started telling me, "Mommy, I'm not feeling well. Just give me a glass of hot, sweet tea, Mom. I probably won't see Papa or Vovechka again. Mom, thank you for your care. And then he lost consciousness again. March 23rd at 10 a.m., my beloved boy, Alexander Ivanovich Gureev, passed away. He just said, "Goodbye, my dear mommy." I cried, pulled him into the fuselage, wrote it down, and sat in the diary. The blizzard is raging. It almost buried the whole plane, and I was left like a beast in a den, alone, with no one to talk to. Night falls. I lie alone, afraid. I wanted to strangle myself, but my hands wouldn't move. I'm very scared. March 24th through 28th. The weather is still raging. Heavy snowfall, a big hurricane. I'm so thirsty. I ate snow, ate it, but it didn't help. I don't really want to eat anything. I'm very scared. On the night of the 25th, I heard some animal cries. My son Sasha used to be here. We'd sing songs and play dominoes, tell fairy tales, watch movies. But now I'm so alone. Valerie's skull was lying on the fuselage. I kept chewing on it. I had no strength left, but I didn't want to touch Sasha. Maybe I thought they would find me, but my strength was gone. On April 13th, there were 3 wolves very close to the plane trying to get into the window. I climbed into the fuselage. April 14th, I sat for 2 days without water. April 26th, it's been 70 days today and I'm still sitting here, waiting, but no one's coming for me. I wish I knew what was happening at the front. Goodbye, my dear loved ones. Vanya, Vovochka, Mama, Sister Varya, Dmitry Nikitovich, Nikita Ivanovich, Sister Polya, nephews, Kolya, Zhenya, and my daughter Shura. Goodbye forever. We won't see each other again. Take care of my little one. He's the only one I have left with Sasha, my son, and Valerie. We died here, starved for a whole month, waited, thought maybe we'd be saved. May 1st. The weather in the morning was very bad. Heavy snowfall with strong wind. Around 12 p.m., everything stopped, the sun came out, and the weather became good. But there's no plane, no expedition, no one. I cried a little. It's so upsetting. Finally, on May 8th, 1942, 75 days after the crash, Anna Gureeva was found by a search party. Their initial goal was actually just to find the plane's wreckage and salvage parts for the war effort. Anna's husband, Ivan, was part of that group. A few days earlier, the expedition had found Alexander Zhukovsky's body. He was lying near a river surrounded by pistol casings. His TT Pistols magazine was empty. He had been shooting, calling for help, but his friends had just left him behind. When they finally reached the crashed plane, what they saw shattered them. Sitting on the wreckage was an emaciated but alive woman. When she saw her husband, she spoke chillingly. "Vanya, you probably got married again, didn't you?" And when he asked about Sasha, she simply pointed to a small child's skull lying nearby. An investigation was launched into the abandonment of Anna and her children. The 3 surviving men were given various sentences. Pilot Nyazhnichenko was sent to a penal battalion where he later died. Anna's life after the rescue was incredibly difficult. She spent a long time in the hospital, recovering physically and mentally. Doctors found no signs of mental illness. Later, she remarried, had more children and grandchildren, and lived a long life, passing away in 1992. Thank you to everyone who watched until this point. Support our team by subscribing. It helps us release new videos faster. But the memory of those horrific months in the mountains haunted her until her dying day. Anna Gureeva's diary is a unique, haunting document. It's a powerful testament to human resilience in the face of death. While some details are debated, there's no doubt it reflects the brutal reality of that tragedy. The wreckage of that biplane was eventually recovered from the mountains in 1985 and meticulously restored from blueprints. Today, that very plane is on display at the Aviation Museum in Monino, a silent reminder of this forgotten story of courage and survival in the harsh Pamir Mountains.